This time around, it's only been about a month, but the reason why I wanted to reach out to you anyway is because some really strange things have been happening. I'm learning Dutch. I just started taking guitar lessons again. I'm learning how to DJ. And I'm like, I have so much energy. I literally have the time and the energy and the attention span to fully engage in all of these extra activities. And I picked up a film course. I'm learning documentary filmmaking, and I'm still running a business, and I'm running two projects right now. I hate to admit this, and I'm gonna be on the internet saying this, but
Rhonda, how did you find Carnivore?
I found carnivore by way of keto. So let me go back to. I just want to say something that I find really annoying, and this is kind of like the beginning. So I was always like heavier as a child, um, but it was weird. Like I was heavier on the scale, but I didn't look like how much I weighed. I weighed more than I looked, and doctors used to be like, they were fixated on the number on the scale, even though I was very athletic. And I look back at pictures from when I was young, like we were just talking a minute ago, like roller skate. I used to roller skate literally every single day when I lived in California. I was very, very active. I was always in the gym. I was hanging out at Venice Beach. One of my cousins was one of the '84 Olympics gymnast people. So I was always around athletes, always working out, always doing these things, but I just weighed more than I looked like I weighed. So this started this problem in my head, okay, that I thought I was like fat. And when I look back at my pictures, I'm like, well, I was thick, but I wasn't fat, right? But it just messed up my whole mental everything, right? Because I'm so sad about that because it was such a head trip. Um, and now what I know now, which of course I didn't know then, because why would I know that? I was a kid. You know, genetically, I'm just different. I'm a person of color. I'm not thin Malibu Barbie. I never will be, and I never would have been. So that's kind of like where everything starts is in childhood, just having this head trip of like you're fat, you need to lose weight because of this number on the scale. As I got into adulthood and I was getting more and more into physical fitness and like weightlifting, not weightlifting like a bodybuilder, but like working out in the gym with weights is what I mean. Um, and I would do these cardio tests that they would do whenever you join a gym. They give you a physiology test, blah blah blah, and my weight had just kept going up and up and up as I was, getting more into adulthood. I know now that, from what I've learned and researched, learning from all these people, that I've learned from keto and carnivore and everything, I understand now there was like a hormonal thing going on. I was eating all the wrong foods without knowing it because of my age. I came up in that generation where, do you remember, and if we're not supposed to name call people, maybe just let me know or you can edit it out. But do you remember Susan Powder from like the
I
80s?
don't, but a few people have mentioned Susan Powder from the 80s. Yeah.
So she had this tremendous weight loss, and she got really, really popular. She was condemning people for eating meat like fat, like it's fat. You're fat because you eat fat. Like that total what we know is just complete BS, right? So, but hey, just like in the US, everybody went on this low fat craze and everybody got freaking fatter. And that combined with my own little mental unfortunate, self-image kind of thing that was it planted in my head, um, was a recipe for disaster. And then you add to that some hormonal things. Um, the thing I was going to say that really ticks me off is I would kill myself in the gym. Like, I was in the gym no less than 3 days a week. I'm there 2 hours at a time. I'm like white knuckling it, like doing this aerobic, like, oh, get your heart rate up. And I didn't know at the time I'm spiking my cortisol, which then is spiking my insulin, which is, having this stress response. And then the hormones are coming in. And then I'm just literally shooting myself in the foot because I'm making myself now, my body's like reacting and saying, oh my gosh, a dinosaur is going to come get us. So let's go ahead and hold in all this fat, that response to cortisol. And of course, the worst thing that I would do is after I would be in the gym for so long, after of course going there after working all day in an office, I was already tired when I got there. Then I'd just trudge through it. Then I'd get home, I'm exhausted. Now I'm crazy hungry. And then because it's low fat, I have a big plate of pasta because pasta was kind of pushed off as almost like a health food because it's low fat. And so I'm having pasta with butter and like maybe some vegetables. So I'm just carbing up like crazy. And the only way that I could ever actually lose weight was to literally starve myself and like just live in the gym every minute that I wasn't working or sleeping. And then I still wasn't getting, like, for the amount of the return on the investment was horrible. The amount of time that I was putting in and the effort, and I was like, this is so unfair. Like, why do I have friends who just sit around and eat whatever they want? And they're perfectly normal size, but I'm just, I'm not eating junk food. I'm not going fast food. I'm doing everything supposedly the right way. And nothing I'm doing is really giving me the types of results that you would expect for the type of effort that I was putting in. That went back and forth for years and years. And then I found quick weight loss centers, which that plan does work, but they didn't tell you this at the time. It is very low carb. Okay, so here's where we're starting to kick in. That was effective, but it was low carb, but it was also low fat. It had substantial protein, but you talking about, I swear I had days I'm like, I swear to God, if I eat one more chicken breast, I'm gonna cluck and I'm gonna murder somebody if I have to. I'm like, oh my God, I was miserable. So because it was low carb and low fat, it wasn't very satisfying, and I was always hungry. And of course, and they also told you that you weren't allowed to exercise because I think they knew that there wasn't enough nutrition in that. So they used to actually get on my case about exercising. And I said, but I love exercising. This is just what I do. Like, how are you going to tell me? So, of course, I was having not enough calories, not enough fat, and I was working out despite what they told me because I was like, they're not going to tell me I'm going to work out. And I would have to sneak and work out because they could tell. They're like, well, you're not losing the way you should according to plan. I'm like, yeah, well, I had to go. They're like, you're not supposed to work out. So all those things together, based on what I know now, my body was like probably holding on to every little morsel of anything that I would give it. So when I went off that program, I believe I just kind of messed up my metabolism. That's my thought anyway, because I had unexplained weight gain. Not to mention I had low lying, underlying constant stress. I had a very stressful lifestyle because of work. And, I'm going to make this part of the story real short, but fast forward to I got married the wrong guy. That was a nightmare. Got pregnant, had my kid. And then after I had my daughter, everything just went my weight just went, and I was going to the doctor. I'm like, what, I had an awesome pregnancy. I only gained like, I think 20 pounds during my whole entire pregnancy. And after the day after my daughter was born, I was 4 pounds less than I was when I started. So during my pregnancy, I was perfect. Um, and then afterwards, everything I just, I just went to the doctor and I was like, I don't understand what's happening. But again, I didn't understand what I know now about carbs because, we're still on this low fat thing. Eat. And that now at this time, I'm taking you through the timeline. So my daughter was born in 98. So now what do you think is going on as we're at the end of the 90s, coming into the early 2000s? Now, when I'm in the US anyway, now they're pushing the whole grains. Eat more grains. And I don't have the exact dates, but there was a point where they started to mess with the food pyramid and stuff. And so, like, the amount of fats was at the teeniest little piece at the top of the pyramid.
It was like the food pyramid's not bad enough already. Let's see if we can make it worse.
No, I know, extremely worse because the whole thick bottom band was like breads and just freaking carbs. Okay, carbs. And then, of course, this is also during the time where they're vilifying eggs. Okay, and of course, you shouldn't have bacon because that's fat. And I mean, all the wrong things. And if you have messed up metabolism and you have some hormonal things going on and you're following that, what chance do you have of ever, becoming healthy, losing weight? What chance do you have? It's just infuriating. And then, of course, you end up feeling bad about yourself because you're working the hardest you can. You're like, I'm not sitting around eating bonbons all day. Why am I so fat? You know, I'm at the gym all the time. And even when I went to the physiologist at the gym, I joined this really posh gym in, like, 2008. And one of the trainers, she was like, yeah, I know. Yeah, you have weight to lose. She's like, but your flexibility and, like, the amount of muscle that you actually have is, like, insane. And then, like, even my cardiovascular health, like my resting heart rate at the time, my working heart rate, like, I was killing it, but I was still just really overweight, and it's the frustrating thing. So I know it took a long time to get to this part of answering your question, but as you can see, I have this lifelong dreadful journey. So then I discovered, someone told me about this book called Wheat Belly. So that's when I first started to learn about, okay, grains. Oh, you mean all this bread I've been eating is, like, not good? What? So it started with that. And then I started trying to do juicing. And then I met this guy who was, like, in part of this juicing groups because, of course, I watched a documentary about this guy from Australia who did, like, some kind of juicing for a year or something. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll try that. Okay. And then, because I was in these Facebook groups, so there's this guy that was in this Facebook group, and he's like, well, have you heard about keto? So, like, all through, like, 2010, 11, 12, whatever, 13, 14, 15, it was this trends, just, like, tried the juicing. That was absolutely, like, oh my God, not only is this expensive, this is a pain in the butt. Like, nobody has time for this. Um, and I'm starving to death. Like, I think at this point, I'd rather just die. It's like, because, like, I started to build up this anxiety about eating, period. It's like, why is it such a problem? Like, what to make, like, I'm just so tired of having to figure out, like, what to eat for breakfast, then lunch, then dinner. And then and then, of course, there's also the other thing. You must eat 3 to 5 times a day, or else you're going to lower your all these, it's like, you, it's like my journey to carnivore sounds like this bumbling trip and fall, scrape your knee, like the most zigzagged cartwheel, like upside down journey from here to there. Um, a patchwork quilt of all these different lies and things, you know. Um, so keto worked really well for me, and I was like, okay, I can live with this. But that gets weird in social situations where I can't have that bread. I can't. Thanks for making me a hot dog. I'll just have the hot dog. I can't have the bun, whatever. And it got to be a little bit of like too much work, you know. So carnivore. It was a natural progression. That's all I can say. It was a natural progression because now that I'm older, now it's not so much about, oh, I want to lose weight because I want to look good. Now it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in my 50s. Uh, my dad and all of his sisters have diabetes. Um, Gee, what's that little tingling feeling in my toes? What is that? And then I knew in the back of my mind, you know what that is. You know what that is. You know what that is. It's like, you're probably pre-diabetic. At the very least, you know you're insulin resistant. And so I didn't have to go to a doctor to know these things. I just, because I had learned so much, I had started reading. I found Dr. Eric Westman, then Dr. Ken Berry, then I low carb under. I was like, well, I mean, you know, I just started flooding myself with information. And then the more that I learned and I started to recognize symptoms in my own body, I'm like, I'm probably diabetic. I don't need a doctor to tell me that. I just felt like I just felt like I knew it. Keto was something that I still promote, but in my case, what I've learned is that along the way, I have to admit that I'm addicted to carbs. And there's another doctor that I follow. I know I'm just throwing out all these names, but Dr. Cywes, Cywes, he's very in your face about it. He's like, if you were an alcoholic, if you were a recovering alcoholic, how much how many drinks a day do you think an alcoholic it's okay for an alcoholic to have? None, because it's a slippery sliding slope. And the reason why keto ended up not being ideal for me is because, and you've probably heard people talk about this, it's like keto is a way to, if you do it how Dr. Westman does it, you're not going to run into this problem because he doesn't endorse all of this like fake keto foods or this junk you buy in the store. But I was part of the gang that was like, oh well, keto is great because if I get a sweet tooth, I could still just make a little mug cake with almond flour and some stevia or some, you know, monk fruit, which has erythritol, which was, that's great. But, you know, then I learned, well, that spikes your insulin. And then you're going to have cravings. And you still haven't addressed the fact that you really are now triggering insulin and continuing to want sweets. But when I got hardcore and realized that the goal now is to not want those things, and then I realized, reluctant. I didn't just sail into carnivore like, you know, happy day. I was reluctant because I was like, but what if it's my birthday? And I had to go through this little mental like talking to myself, like, so what if it's your freaking birthday? Why are you thinking about it like that? And I'm still, you know, I'm not perfect with that, but I came to it because now it's a matter of like health and life quality and accepting the fact that I could do keto. Then I learned that the monk fruit with erythritol gives me trouble with my bladder. I'm an older lady now. I'm like, why am I going to the bathroom 16 freaking times a day? And then I had a hunch and I started to do the research. And there you go. There it was. I'm like, okay, got to cut that out. It's been such a battle just to get over the fact that I like cream and sugar in my coffee. That was such a freaking hard fought battle. Like, now I can't even have monk fruit in my coffee anymore. It's like learn to like it not sweet. So this is the regimented, like, strict little, you know, I'm going to go back to my Catholic school days. This is Sister Margaret Mary cracking you on the knuckles, telling you that suck it up, Buttercup. Just drink your coffee with nothing sweet. Why do you even like that? Because I was raised drinking coffee with sugar and cream from a child. My mom used to give me coffee with cream and sugar as a kid. I loved it. It's like, well, now you like it without it. Move on. I have this little mean girl that lives in my head that has to remind me you can't have everything that you want. This is not good for you. Because the other thing that has happened with age is that when I would go on again, off again, fall off the wagon, and I would like mess up and have some kind of, oh well, it's just one little party. I'll just have one or two or three slices of pizza, whatever. I'll just have the sandwich. I'm out in public. I live in freaking the Netherlands. They live off of bread here. It's like, oh my gosh, everything is just bread, 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 bread. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, right? And then there's less options to even just like buy certain things in the grocery store. Um, so I went through that transition. I was like, okay, you just are living in the land of bread. You're addicted to carbs. You love sugar. Sugar doesn't love you back. What are you gonna do? So it's like come to Jesus meet, and it's like, well, hello, carnivore, and then so one of the things that I really love about it is you heard me mention previously what a pain in the neck it is to have to figure out what's for dinner every day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the two snacks in between. Because there was literally like these weight loss programs that would encourage you to eat. You have to eat 5 times a day. Even the trainers at the health clubs, you have to eat 5 times a day. You have to eat within 45 minutes of your workout. Optimize in 45. That's what they called it. And I'm like, all these rules, and they're all freaking garbage. They're all just BS.
You only had two snacks.
Yeah, I had
Minor leagues, three snacks, three snacks.
really. Well, I wasn't even a snacking kind of person, and the problem that I used to run into when I was on that program was they would ask, "Well, are you eating all of your food?" I'd be like, "No, actually, I'm not eating all of my food because this stuff's bland as heck, and I don't want to eat. I'm not a snacking person, but you have to have your snacks to keep your metabolism up." And now, now that I know what I know, listening to, I have two of Jason Fung's books. Oh yeah, nice little insulin spikes all throughout the day. Yeah, thanks. Um, so I really love the fact that I don't really have to plan much. And between carnivore and intermittent fasting, and I live alone now because my daughter's fully grown, and I don't have to plan meals for other family members. That was the hard part too. When I'm over here constantly on some kind of a stupid diet, I live with a family of normies who don't have to worry about these things, and so I'm having to cook their here. Have your lovely lasagna and enjoy it. I'm just gonna have a carrot stick, thanks. Just be over here with my celery and chicken breast. Um, I'm so glad those days are gone. So,
So how long has it actually been since you've been full carnivore?
well, this time around, it's only been about a month, but the reason why I wanted to reach out to you anyway is because some really strange things have been happening. I wanted to tell you.
Does it involve UFOs?
No,
Sorry.
no. Although you might wonder if I'm an alien when I tell you about what's been happening.
You've
Excuse
got
me.
my attention now.
Some
You've
of
got my
my non
attention now.
have some of my non-sugar coffee. So, um, the first time I tried carnivore, which was probably a couple of years ago, was in combination with also giving up alcohol because I was like determined I've got to lose weight. Alcohol's empty calories, it's sugar, it's that first time I experienced this insane amount of cognitive clarity. And I thought I attributed it to, oh, well, you're not drinking anymore. Because as I've gotten older, wine just became problematic. It's like everything becomes problematic after you hit 50. Like, what the heck? Like, oh, you had a raisin. Oh, you're going to die. I mean, so I was really blown away at how cognitively speaking, my mind was so clear. I had so much energy and I was able to make decisions with certainty. I also used to suffer from depression when I was younger. I haven't had any of that for quite a while. Um, and I was dabbling with carnivore back then. I didn't stick with it for very too long, um, for one reason or the other. But this go around, also not drinking. What's happening that's really strange is I noticed like week before last, I took a selfie and I was like, wow, what's wrong with my eyes? Like the whites of my eyes look like liquid paper white, like like like, and I even called it out to my daughter. I was like, hey, look at my eyes. And my daughter had just been here and visited me for 3 months. So she would know. She's like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. I was like, yeah, at that point, I think I'd only been on carnivore maybe 2 weeks. And then also, I noticed that I have this fun little game that I play when I take my dog out. I go in the elevator, and I've got 4 levels to go down between my level and the ground level to spot the gray hairs and pluck them out in the mirror in the elevator. So, my gray hairs, a couple, I don't have a lot, and I don't color my hair. Um, I noticed that I was plucking these silver hairs out, and they were black at the roots. Like, what the hell's that? So I remember hearing one of the coaches in Steak and Butter Girl gang. Do you know Steak and Butter Girl? One of the coaches on there talked about how when he went carnivore, his hair started to grow back in normal color. And I thought, wow, is that really what's happening? And that was such a weird feeling. That's why I said, yeah, you might think I'm an alien. It's almost like aging in reverse. And I don't want to give the wrong impression. I don't want to seem like I'm a snake oil salesman or I'm like trying to overhype carnivore. But I promise you, because I took the pictures. That day that I took a picture and I compared it to with another picture that I had from only like a couple months ago, and I sent it to a couple of friends. I'm like, look at my eyes. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty white. I was like, yeah, I used to have these little like brownish kind of just these little discoloration and um that's gone away. And the other thing is that I'm more like regular. I don't want to be TMI, but I'm more regular. And because I'm combining this with fasting, which is effortless, by the way, because I'm not that hungry. That's another thing that I find quite remarkable. My grocery bill is actually less than it was because I'm not buying like just stuff. You know what I mean? Um, you know, I lived in the South for 33 years, for crying out loud. There's no such thing as a one item meal. It's like, well, you got to have your meat, your starch, and your your three vegetables or something like that. Oh, and a roll and cornbread or something. That's a Southern thing. So I don't spend money on that stuff anymore. I don't buy anything in a box. I don't buy anything well, if it's in a can, well, what do I buy in a can anymore? Tuna fish. That's it. But, no more cans of like canned vegetables, canned beans, canned tomato sauces and stuff to make other things that are undoubtedly going to have carbs involved, like spaghetti, lasagna, Mexican food. I actually quite still enjoy Mexican food. I just do it without the tortillas and taco shells and stuff. I love Mexican food. I love the flavors. But yeah, it's just kind of weird because I was thinking last night too. I was like, did I eat today? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I did. Okay, what time did I eat? Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. And I look at my phone. Oh, I was eating when I was talking to Jordan on the phone. So I look at my phone. I have to look at my phone to see what time it was when I spoke to my daughter because I literally just was so detached from whether or not I had had dinner or eaten or whatever. And I was feeling remarkably not hungry. And I like the fact that Carnivore removes the stress of counting calories and removes the stress of I was obsessed with macros when I was doing keto and like literally adding things. Oh, I didn't get right. I didn't get enough fat in. Let me go eat a teaspoon of coconut oil or something, just all that time and attention paid to calories and macros and stuff like that. It's like I just like Dr. Berry says, I just eat until I'm comfortably full. And I don't worry about it nearly as much because I don't have to offset carbs. Because once I did figure out it was the carbs, if I wanted to have a carb when I was younger, I wouldn't do that now because carbs are just like literally like poison to me now. They do a number on my body. Like I can't handle them anymore. Like carbs from breads and stuff. It's horrible. But back in the day when I used to be able to kind of play around with that, well, if you want to have an egg McMuffin or a English muffin with your breakfast this morning, you owe me an hour on the treadmill. That's a terrible way to live. And then the guilt and the shame if you didn't put in that hour. Because I would literally have this like, oh my gosh, I had an English muffin with my breakfast this morning. Oh my gosh, I've got until 10 p.m. tonight to like get that hour in on the gym. Um, and then if I didn't because the gym closed before I could get there because my work schedule or whatever, then I would feel bad about myself. Can you imagine living like that? It's so sad.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's really a terrible way to live. I've got to go back to a point that you were talking about with when you had been talking to your daughter and you kind of lost track of time because, well, you lost track of whether you were eating or not. And I actually find that interesting because when I look back at my life before, like my whole day or the weekend or last week or whatever, everything that kind of sticks out in my mind is all kind of almost landmarked by something I was eating at the time. So it's like, remember when we had those awesome ice creams and that crazy lady was in the shop or something? It's like every story is kind of earmarked with a food or a drink or something.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because it's I will say that it's easier to do this way of lifestyle when you live alone and you don't have to cook for other people. And I'm self-employed and I work from home all the time, so I'm not going into an office. So let me be very clear. I am I am like kind of in a bubble, right? I have complete control over who I come into contact with. My four coworkers behind me, these lazy bums, three cats and a dog. Um, and they're all carnivore too, by the way. So it's easy to have lunch with them. But I mean, all kidding aside, like I think if anybody who's listening to this, one of the most difficult things that you will face if you're living, especially if you're in the US and you're living this like traditional standard American lifestyle, eating the standard American diet, and you're like you're huffing you're commuting into work, you're doing the 9 to 5. Like my whole freaking life was just had this undying level of underlying stress constantly. I got divorced. I was a single mom. I was in college raising my daughter. Um, working my butt off while taking full load of courses. Finished undergrad, went to graduate school, got my master's degree, um, had regular full time jobs and businesses on the side. Just incredibly, insanely busy, and always commuting every freaking where because I lived in the suburbs so that my daughter and I could live in nice neighborhoods and she could go to good schools. Although all my jobs were in downtown Atlanta. And I'm like, well, I don't want to live in downtown Atlanta. Well, who the heck can afford to live in a nice neighborhood in downtown Atlanta unless you're making like crazy money? Like, I couldn't afford to live in Buckhead. And I also couldn't afford to live, say, like in Midtown and then send my daughter to these ridiculously expensive private schools, which would have been my only option. Education is very important to me. So what does that mean? Most people, like myself, have to move crazy far away from their job so that they can properly raise their family in a nice neighborhood and send their kids to nice schools. That's a rat race, man. And have you ever seen the traffic in Atlanta, Georgia? I mean, 1.5 to 2 hours each way commuting. And then this is where the trap was. You get there and you're so defeated before you even get to your desk. So you walk by Dunkin' Donuts and you darn well feel like you earned that darn donut and coffee. I just sat in my car for 2 hours to get to this job, and then lunchtime comes, and it's what I mean? You get in this like rut where you're like, I'll do better tomorrow, but today I'm just gonna have this fast food lunch because I'm so busy and I'm so stressed. I can't even think straight. I can't even plan for myself because I'm in this rut. I'm on this rat wheel, and like, oh my god. And then all it takes is for you to, if you happen to work in an office where they're quite generous with the snacks always hanging around. I work at this one company. The president of the company loved those little Lindt chocolate balls, and he used to go to Costco and buy these big bins of them. And of course, my desk was right there at the table where he'd stick all the. Man, why you got to put that right? What can y'all move me, please? Do I have to sit in the cube that's right next to the table where all the little chocolate lint balls are? Like, do you even understand? The werewolf in me is struggling every day, you know. So my point is that it's easy for me because I'm in a bubble. But if you are somebody who is living that life where you're commuting, you're in an office, and you are constantly surrounded by all this temptation, the one thing that I find quite remarkable about carnivore is if you stick with it long enough, if you give it 2 weeks and you allow yourself to not be addicted to that sugar, if you can white knuckle it through for 2 weeks and lose the cravings, because now I'm like, I sit here and I think, it's Friday night. Traditionally, I have been socialized. Hey, what do most people do on Friday night? It's pizza night. It's Friday. We've worked all week. We've worked hard. The weekend's here. Living for the weekend. What a farce. And so Friday night was always pizza night because you're stuck in freaking traffic trying to get home on Friday night. So what do? You call your husband or you call your teenage daughter and you're like, hey, honey, go ahead and order from Papa John's. I'll be there in about 2 hours. I'm so beat down from this stressful week. Or you got to be crazy if you think I'm cooking tonight. I'm not doing that. That's so typical American suburban rat race life. And then you never really give yourself a chance to even stop being addicted to these carbs and the sugar and all the crap that they put in the food very deliberately to keep you addicted to it. But if you can just like get through those 2 weeks, that's the biggest transition. The energy, the cognitive clarity, the eye whites, your hair start. If you're an older person, this hair coming back in different color is a thing. Younger people won't know what the heck we're talking about. They won't care about that probably, but just the way you feel in your body, like not being inflamed and not having joint pains and like having the pep in your step that I think it's amazing to be 56 and actually feel better than I did when I was in my 30s. That's crazy.
Ultimate kind of reverse aging, right? It's pretty awesome.
It is. I know that sounds cliche, but it is in a way because just the mental clarity alone has been quite helpful for me because I'm quite a creative person and I own my own business and so I have to constantly keep up with changing times and all this other stuff and um, this is a little side note but I think it's relevant here. um, I have never given any thought to the term ageism, you know but it's something that I have had to kind of like reckon with lately, in the workforce, in the work world, whatever. But I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm quick-witted. I have my wits about me. I can learn. I'm doing so many things right now that I was too tired to even think about doing before. Um, and I achieved this by just dropping the carbs anyway. So I'm not going to say, oh, carnivore is going to make you. So I'm not trying to make it like it's a magic pill, but it just enhances even further. I'm learning Dutch. I just started taking guitar lessons again. I'm learning how to DJ. And I have so much energy. I literally have the time and the energy and the attention span to fully engage in all of these extra activities. And I picked up a film course. I'm learning documentary filmmaking, and I'm still running a business, and I'm running two projects right now. And people are like, "How do you get so much done?" I'm like, I don't I schedule and I plan, and I'm very strategic, and my ability to focus is insane right now. um,
That's awesome. That's great. So, you mentioned before you're in the Netherlands now. Um, what is it like getting meat in the Netherlands? Is it expensive? Because you kind of hear these things about in Europe, they're really pushing plant-based and stuff. So I just wonder how things are there now.
well, I will tell you that is true. It's really quite annoying, actually. Um, when I first moved here in 2018, I was so shocked at how what I thought was so much less expensive that groceries were in general. But of course, I wasn't carnivore and I was just eating whatever because I was living with somebody. It was impossible to try to have a special diet because the other thing too, they don't have these big, massive refrigerators here, freezers, and all. I mean, it was impossible to do. But then after COVID happened and everything just went up and crazy from there. But meat is like, I'm trying to think, like, for example, I can buy a package of ribeyes from the Albert Heijn, and it'll be anywhere between 340 grams to 350 grams or something like that. And that'll be like 12 euros and some change. And so compared to what I remember, depending on the grocery store that I went to when I was living in the US, like I used to shop at Publix a lot. So 12 euros and like 30 something cents is probably the equivalent of like maybe 13 or something. Yeah, that's kind of high. And it's what they call premium. Dutch beef here tastes very different to me. I don't know why. It just, I don't like it. But I'm also, and I used to order, I do order from this one place online, and I used to order American ribeyes from them. But man, they went from, I used to be able to get an American ribeye from this online beef source, meat source. I used to be able to get an American ribeye for, say, like 10 or 11 euros a piece. That shot up to like 25, 26, 27, 28 euros for one ribeye steak. I was like, okay, y'all are smoking crack. Okay, I can't shop here anymore. So the only thing I do buy from them, I get poultry from France from them. The chicken just tastes so much better. And I get my Iberian pork from that online store. And then I have another source, online butcher store, that I get my beef bones from to make beef broth because the other place doesn't sell them. So I have to do a mishmash. I order a lot of meats online, and they ship them to you. They truck them. They're here in the Netherlands, and if you order before 11 a.m., then you'll get it the same day. They package it up and put it on a truck and send it out to your house because they're far away. Um, there is no Costco. Okay, so I was just saying, like, you're not gonna ever compare to that. I remember being able to go into Costco and get like a big tray of like nice, thick, juicy ribeyes. Yeah, it might cost $40, but man, you're gonna eat good for several days. There might be 6 or 8 ribeyes in that big pack, but they're hefty ribeyes. I mean, they're grill worthy ribeyes. You just can't compare to that. Um, it's it's a little bit frustrating. The other thing that I have a hard time finding here that's decent, bacon. The bacon here is so inconsistent. It's super super salty, very 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 thin. I went through various different trials and errors, ordering from all these different places. I found a place online that's actually owned by an American guy, and he sells all these like smoked meats and stuff. And that bacon was like, I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I've gone to heaven. But then it started to become very inconsistent. Every other order I got, oh, this just tastes like that nasty, disgustingly salty, not enough fat. Like, what's the point of eating the bacon? I want the bacon because I want the fat. I want the crisp. I want it to cook up a certain way. The bacon here is so weird and inconsistent. I often have to add coconut oil into the pan to keep the bacon from just sticking and just turning into like evaporating in the pan. And like, it's hard to do the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs thing here. Okay.
So at this stage, is it kind of carnivore for life for you?
Dave, I have to say yes, because I was just running through this with my best friend yesterday. I said, well, I can't drink anymore because it destroys me. I can't even have one glass of wine. Um, so I think I'm also not going to be drinking. It's just gotten to the point. I have this whole list of things that are just not worth it. Um, every time I eat a carb, and when I say a carb, I mean like a grain, or I mess up and have some sugar, my body instantly gives me a consequence. Um, I will get inflammation immediately. My legs will swell up. My joints will hurt. I'll get these weird like skin blister thingies on my legs. Um, and whenever I have a relapse, and each time I have a relapse, I'm like, oh, it's a party. It's when my daughter was here for over the holidays, that was just, I felt like I just destroyed every month of anything healthy that I had been doing. I just destroyed all of it. And then when she left in January, I was so sorry and sad to see her go. But then I was like, okay, now we can get back to normal because she is young, she's thin, she's beautiful, and she eats whatever the hell she wants. And she's got a mean sweet tooth, and I have practically no willpower. So that's a terrible combination. Every time I turn around, this girl was buying brownies and like bringing stuff in the house that I never, ever, 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 never introduced into my house. Next thing you know, I'm eating brownies and ice cream, and I mean, and it just wreaks so much havoc on me. It's a point now where I really have to have this conversation and say, this is not about looking good. This is about feeling good. This is about being able to actually live your life to the fullest. Because I hate to admit this, and I'm going to be on the internet saying this, but my confession is that not feeling good and COVID COVID was a turning point for me because, we were locked down pretty hard here, and this is such a confession. I hope I don't care who sees this because whatever. I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to be me. I started drinking more. I was eating whatever the hell I wanted, and I was going nowhere. And I became a recluse. That's not my personality style, but that's what happened. And my health suffered greatly because of the COVID period. And I'm not blaming the government because they locked. I'm not one of those people like, ooh, blame. I'm not I'm just saying this is what happened. I had a choice. I didn't have to drink champagne like I was popping bottles every week like I was, because I was very busy that during that time. My business went boom up. I mean, I got more work during COVID than I could literally handle because of what I do. I do e-learning development and performance consulting. So everybody all of a sudden was scrambling to like put things in digital format. So I was like having four, five, six clients at a time. And all I did was sit at this computer and work from morning until night every day for like 2 years. Very unhealthy. And it was very stressful. And so I was just not eating healthfully. And I was drinking way more than I ever have in my life because I was just like, well, it's 3 o'clock. May as well have a glass of wine. It's like, why? Because I can. Because I'm not going anywhere. And I got 8 more hours of work to do. I mean, I'm bearing my soul here. But that was probably the most damage I've done to myself in my lifetime through that. I'm getting emotional because I've never really just like put it in that plain perspective, even for myself. Um, this has to be for a lifetime because now I'm 56 and my body's like, I've had enough of this. You give me sugar and you think you want to mess around and have pizza again? Well, I'm going to let you find out. Go ahead. Go ahead. And every time that happens, it's worse and worse each time. And then I had to secretly admit to myself, The reason why you haven't gone anywhere or done anything is because you don't feel good and you don't look good. You don't like the way you feel. You don't like the way you look. And are you even able to like go and run about like you used to before things got really bad? And it's like you live in Europe, for crying out loud. That was my life dream, was to move to Europe. I always had dreamed of living here. I made that dream come true for myself. And now I'm like living like a hermit. And truth be told, it's a self-inflicted like prison sentence. And I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but I'm being very, very serious about it because I think that more people need to hear this, because I think we get anesthetized by the stress and the ruts that we get in, and it's like, ugh, and when you're in that state and you're not thinking clearly and you're just trying to make it through the day, and so you're not really thinking about planning your meals, you're not thinking about what you're putting in your mouth, or you're not thinking about the stress that you're taking in, you're not thinking about the fact that you're not sleeping enough, and then you wake up one day and you're like, dang, I gained 50 pounds or whatever. And then you feel bad about yourself, and it's just terrible, awful cycle. And you have to like snatch it up and grab it and take control. And that's the point. That's where I'm at. That's where I am right now. Because I have things that I want to do before I freaking die, and it includes like traveling and going places and seeing things, and I'm never ever going to be able to do that if I'm just sitting around here, um to coin some old documentary, fat, sick, and nearly dead. I can't do that. Like, why did you like burn the boat, sell your house, open up a new business in Europe, keep the one of the why did you make this dream of living in Europe a reality for yourself if you only need to come here and you're living like a freaking hermit and hiding behind this food addiction or this carb addiction that you have? So my mindset now is very different. Where I told you before, I was dabbling with carnivore because I was like, oh, I just want to gain, I want to lose some few pounds because I want to wear this cute outfit. It's not about the cute outfit anymore. It's about, I want to do this. I need to do this because I'm tired of feeling like crap, and I want to fulfill my other dreams of, taking the guitar lessons in hopes that I will be able to perform again. I used to sing. um, Being able to maintain whatever youthfulness that I have and live more a more rich and full life, because I have lived such this dogged work hard and always grind and always achieve kind of life, and I didn't give myself a chance to live like this creative, fun, rich, fulfilling life that doesn't have anything to do with like chasing the next contract or some money or blah 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 blah. And I cannot do that if I'm not healthy.
Very well said. And yeah, I can feel that because you kind of get into these ruts, where you are just you kind of surviving, right? You're chasing the money or whatever, but it's survival, right? You're just working as much as you can, doing as much as you can to keep the rent paid, keep the food on the table, all that kind of thing. And yeah, then after a while you look up and go, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, you look up and you're in your 50s and you're like, what the hell? Because you always, when you're in that state, I don't know about you or anybody else out there who's watching, when you're in that survival state, you always think you have more time. I'll get to it tomorrow. Uh, Next week. Yeah, I swear to God, next month I'm gonna get that. And then like 10 years of that goes by. I mean, I know that sounds cliche because people talk about that all the time. Oh, we don't have as much time as we think we did it. But dang it, it's so true. And if there's one thing that I can say, you don't want to be in your, it doesn't, it doesn't matter if you think, oh, okay, well, I'm going to live until I'm 80. Okay. Are you going to live till you're 80 and have all of your toes still with you? Are you going to be diabetic for the last 25 years of your life? What kind of life is that? Okay, you might live to your 80, but are you going to be able to walk? Are you going to be able to like, because I'm thinking about my father who's not, he doesn't have a problem with weight or anything like that, but he's diabetic and he got kidney cancer and he had one of his kidneys removed, and apparently he has I don't know what it's called, it's some rare thing that's related to his kidney cancer that like messed with his mobility. So he started having back problems. And yeah, he's 81. So people could say, oh, well, he's 81. He's lived a full life. But he's not getting around that great. And he's a cautionary tale for me because he's also diabetic, but he doesn't eat well. So that's my marker. It's not about just reaching some number. It's like, what's the quality of, because now it's like the rate at which we progress through time after we reach, swear to God, 50. It's like when you're young, you're like, oh, I just want to be a teenager. And then you're a teenager, you're like, oh, I just want to be an adult so I can do what I want to do. And then when you're an adult, you're like, I really miss being able to take a nap when I was a kid. What the heck is this? And then when you get to be like 50, you're like, wow, it sure would be nice if I didn't snap, crackle, pop every time I got up and walked across the room. And like everything changes. And then I feel like we're just going through this time trajectory at an exponentially more quick rate. So it's like the impact at this time in my life is exponential now. So if the consequence from eating a slice of pizza was, say, on a scale of 1 to 10, gave me like a 1 or 2 10 years ago, we are clearly at a 7, 8, 9 now. And it just gets worse as I get older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Rhonda, how can people reach out to you? Do you have a website or social media or anything like that?
Um, I have I have my, yeah, I have I have a couple of websites, but I'll just give the one that's just my personal brand. It's just rondaharris.com. Um, like I was saying, I have a company called White Wolf Consulting, but I'm moving more into, actually, I'm glad you asked because it's kind of relevant to what I was talking about. So I'm a certified coach and a change management practitioner. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking my years of experience working in the corporate sector, doing learning and development and performance consulting, and I coach individuals to navigate changes in their lives and to go through transformations, which I count myself. I am my first little guinea pig of going through my program of transformation. And so the rondaharris.com would probably be the most appropriate because if I gave you my business website, people would probably go, what the heck is that? I'm not interested in organizational whatever. But yeah, they can find me there. And on my website is links to other social media, Instagram. I have a very, very young, budding, little teeny tiny little YouTube channel that I literally just started. I only have like 50 subscribers. But I have a podcast called The Pivoting Wolf, which you can find all that on there. And it's all about helping people pivot in life. I mean, back on the topic of carnivore, so I can tie this in and make it relevant to your audience. My final say, as far as it relates to this conversation today, is that carnivore is one of the vital pieces in my puzzle for me to make a pivot in my life that I'm going through right now, because it is giving me the nutrition and the energy and the health benefit that I need to be able to facilitate these changes and to be able to have the fuel that I need, if you will, to go forward with energy and vitality. Um, so this is your channel, so I wasn't, I'm not trying to have a shameless pitch about my channel, but that's what I see. This is a health call for me. Yeah, I have to do that. This has to be a life changing thing, because the pain has become too much now. There's something that I always tell people, when you get ready to make a change, it's going to be because the pain of not changing is going to be greater than the pain associated with making the change. And I think that that's just kind of like, I can't think of a more perfect thing to say to anybody who might be on the fence about trying carnivore, especially if they're having some like health problems. I'm not a doctor, so let me say this disclaimer, but it has helped me out so much. I can't wait to get back to the States. I'm going to get back to the States because I know I can get all these tests and stuff. I'm going back to visit in October. I can't wait to get back to the States and get my extremely comprehensive blood work and stuff done after I will have been on it for 6 months at that point. So I hope that we'll stay in touch, and I'll have to let you know how that goes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. It'd be great to have you back on after you've been to the States. Yeah. So, Rhonda, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed talking with you, and enjoy the chat.